course, is Reverend Stephen Robinson. Our services are streamed on YouTube and Zoom, but no matter how you choose to join us, you're always welcome. And for more information about the UUCC, please visit our website at uucolumbia.org, or you can follow us on Facebook or on Instagram. I just got a message the other day on Instagram and couldn't open it. I guess everybody's on Instagram except me. We also provide weekly updates for everybody each Thursday, so look for those in your email. We do welcome families with children, and we provide childcare during our services for infants and children back in the RE wing. If you'd like to be a volunteer, chat with Bethany Strolazzi. I don't know if she's here. She may be back there today. Anyway, today, youth and children over the age of 4 are going to remain in our service with their parents, and there's a seating area right back there where if you can quietly play with your parents if you want to stay in the service. That goes for children of any age, if you brought your parents. There are toys back there too. And now, if you will please silence all of your devices as we center ourselves for today's service, and we're going to listen to the prelude.
This morning's prelude is by Armenian-American composer Diane Gulkasian-Rabi, and it's called Prelude, Chaotic Life in the 90s. She describes it as a wild mini-drama expressing the crazy pace of life. Considering that this was composed in the 90s, she maybe couldn't even have imagined the crazy pace that cell phones, technology could bring into our personal and our work lives. I invite you to pay special attention at the end to see the musical reflection of the clock chiming at the end of the workday and the exhaustion that follows. A modern piece, I take it. You know what that reminds me of? If you see these video reels on Facebook all the time of cats climbing across a piano, that was a really talented cat. Thank you, Anna. If you'll please rise now in body and spirit with me and join me in the Congregational Covenant. It's in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant with one another. If you'll be seated now. Welcome again. Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion, and our community is based on deeds, not creeds. We're a covenantal religion, which means that we don't have to believe the same in order to treat each other the same, with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. We side with love, embracing all people and welcoming all people. Our board members and our committee chairs welcome your questions and comments, and you'll see the board members will have green name tags on, so ask them all the hard questions. Now we'd like to welcome any guests or visitors who are here today.
And let's see, can I get somebody to take the microphone? Kevin, would you take the microphone around? Do we have any visitors or guests today? Oh, we do, okay.
Good morning, I'm Catherine Steele. These are my kids, and my husband is in the back somewhere with my youngest. We are here from Florida. We go to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Lakeland. We came up for my grandfather's funeral this weekend, but we wanted a familiar service this morning. So thank you.
And you're most welcome, Catherine and family.
Good morning. My name's Renee Dantes, and I moved from Texas about 3 weeks ago. And I live in Lexington now with my brother, and I'm looking for my new church home. So I'm here.
Welcome, Renee.
Thank you. Good morning. We're Chloe and Dylan. We're students at the University of South Carolina. We came because we're interested in the Unitarian Universalist Church.
Great to have you here.
Welcome. Go Cox.
Excuse me.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. And if you'd like to fill out a visitor's card that are in the seats, behind some of the seats, you'll get an email and get on our list for newsletters. So if you fill out that card, you'll know more about our events too. And I have to call out somebody here because I was just saying go Cox, and he's got on a red shirt, and Stephen thinks that's a direct insult to the Georgia Bulldogs. But I told him I wouldn't say anything. Anyway, our chalice lighter today is someone you will know but hasn't been here in a while, and that's Carol Dodson. Carol, would you like the chalice? Thank you. Spirit of light and life, come into us. And if you'll join me for our first hymn, number 112 in your big hymnal.
Please stand as you're willing and able to sing our opening hymn, Do You Hear, number 112. And I'm pleased to introduce Kevin McKinney, who will be joining on guitar today.
Do you
Good morning. I share some words that are a little difficult to hear, but necessary. They come from a poem by William Blake that was intended on bringing attention to a problem of child labor and abuse during the 19th century. A very familiar poem called The Chimney Sweeper. And I will point out that Blake, one of my favorite poets, but also just the beautiful use of words. And there's a line in here where he says, the children could scarcely cry, weep, 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 which is a play on the word of weeping, but also recognizing they were too young to even say the word sweep. He writes, when my mother died, I was very young, and my father sold me while yet my tongue could scarcely cry, weep, 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 weep. So your chimneys I sweep, and in soot I sleep. There's little Tom Dack, who cried when his head that curled back like a lamb's back was shaved. So I said, hush, Tom, never mind it, for when your head's bare, you know that soot cannot spoil your white hair. And so he was quiet, and that very night, as Tom was a-sleeping, he had such a sight that thousands of sweepers, Dick, Joe, Ned, and Jack, were all of them locked up in coffins of black. And by came an angel who had a bright key, and he opened the coffins and set them all free. Then down a green plain, leaping, laughing they run, and wash in a river, and shine in the sun. Then naked and white, all their bags left behind, they rise upon clouds and sport in the wind. And the angel told Tom if he'd be a good boy, he'd have God for his father and never want joy. And so Tom awoke, and we rose in the dark and got with our bags and our brushes to work. Though the morning was cold, Tom was happy and warm. So if all do their duty, they need not fear harm. This time I invite our children down for our story for all ages. If you want to join me down at the front on the carpet, I'd be glad to meet you there. We'll even welcome Florida friends from Lakeland here down to the front. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Well, it's Sunday, so, tomorrow you got to get ready to go back to school, right? Right? No? You're all skipping school tomorrow? Why? Oh, wow. Wow. That's interesting. That's all right. Well, it is a holiday weekend, and so there's a lot of people skipping a lot of things. A lot of people aren't working tomorrow, and this is kind of the last little blast of summer because, next week it starts getting cold here in Columbia. And winter will be right around the corner. Is that the way it is in Florida, too? Like next week, it's just, whew. No? No snow next week? It's like that here, too. But we still say this is the last blast of summer, even though you can go to the beach in November and be just fine here in South Carolina. That's right. So it is a holiday. Does anybody know what holiday it is? Labor Day. That's right. So I have some pictures of people, and I want you to tell me what you see. So pick any one of those. Can you tell what they are? Yep. Oh, I see somebody making food. So what do you think their job is? To make pies. They're making food. That's right. They're working in a kitchen somewhere. Do you see anybody else you recognize? What do you see? Anybody see? Okay, we're stuck on the cooking of the pies. You guys are hungry this morning. Yep, there's people working on a farm. Oh, you see a waitress, a server in a restaurant. All right. What about everybody else? You see this? Yep, there's looks like people that are working at a... That's right. You see anybody else? Yep, carrying things, construction workers, and carrying things, that's very good because one of the groups of people down there are folks that are working in the shipping industry. Do you know what the shipping industry is? That means all the products that we have, they're responsible for getting them from place to place. And then the bottom down here, where we said all their hands are together, can you tell by how they're dressed where they might work? Dentist. The dentist? Possibly, that's right. They look too happy to be at a dentist office though, right? A hospital, all right. So it could be a dentist, it could be a hospital, it could be a doctor's office, we don't know. But there are people that are working in healthcare. The reason that I brought this up here is that this is really a lot of what Labor Day is all about. It's about appreciating some of these people that sometimes we don't always notice. We don't recognize that the things that we're buying were shipped here somewhere, or the buildings that are being built, or the bridges that are being worked on, or the roads that we use so often are worked on by people in the industry called the helping industry. And of course, the farmers that are out there growing all these crops, and the healthcare workers. Yeah, you see it to say hey to farmers every day? That's right. That's a good job. So how do you say hey to them? Oh, all right. That's right. All right, did you hear the word that she said? Appreciate. So that is, in my opinion, what Labor Day is all about, apart from getting a day off for the weekend and having a last blast of summer. It's about how do we show our appreciation for all these people that do the hard work around us. That's right, absolutely, including so many poor. I don't even have enough room on my paper for other people. So I invite you to think about somebody that's working that you see, farmer, somebody working at a restaurant, somebody that you know. Yep. Your dad, all right. All right, you're a daddy. Hey, look at there. Yeah. And karate. Wow. Anything else you want to share, Andy? Should we have Andy stand up and take a bow? No, I'm just kidding. Yep, she's got a lot to share. Yeah, that's good. I like, because this is exactly what it's all about. How do you say thank you? You know, that's something everybody can do. Can you say thank you? Thank you. Can you say thank you? Thank you. So think about that on Labor Day tomorrow. How can you say thank you to some of these great workers? Thank you for coming down. Thank you for everyone who does some hard work around here. Thank you for coming down this morning. Sometimes Sunday mornings are just too much fun. Best favorite part of my service, for sure. At this time, we do move to a point in our service where we light candles for our community. Chance for you to share joys that you're holding that you want to make known to this group, but also the burdens, the suffering, the hurting that you're holding that you would like to share. So we have candles available, and if you have one this morning, I invite you to come and briefly share your joy or concern and put it here.
I have to light my candle first or I walk off without lighting it. My name's Annette Flavel. I am co-chair of the membership committee along with Don Cooper and Abigail Brandon. You may not have seen me for a while because I usually disappear during the summer. But it's a year this week since my mum passed away. And I would like to light this candle of sorrow for her passing and joy for her life.
Bud and Chuck here, hard-working carpenters. We'd like to say to Janice, hope you feel better soon. Our birthday is next week. Both of us have a birthday within a couple days of each other, and so we're here to mention that as a joy because we made it another year. But we're really here because of our son Jesse. Just recently, I know some of y'all have heard about him, know about him, but he and have met him, yes, but he reached a milestone the other day by being able to tie his shoelaces. So that's the joy we have, is that he's continuing to beat the odds. Light him up.
Good morning, I'm Joan Watterson, and they beat me to it. I was going to light a candle of joy for the joy that Bud and Chuck bring us and to celebrate their birthdays. So this is for you. Thank you.
I didn't know till right the second that I was going to do this, but I'm here on my anniversary without my husband because he's sick. But we met on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, which is now, and we got married on the Sunday of Labor Day weekend 8 years later. And this is the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, and it's 9/1, and that was when we got married, 9/1/91. So in case you're watching, John, happy anniversary, and thank you to all of you for your support and for welcoming us in this community. Thank you.
My name is Lee Mingy, and I am lighting a candle of deep appreciation for the UUCC. In all the years that I've been a part of this group, it has never meant so much as over the recent past. And it is thanks to you that I feel this way. The I guess, high point of this gratitude I'm expressing took place last Saturday during Julian's memorial service. It was amazingly satisfying to me. And there are several people I would like to mention specifically, but there's a general thank you to those who are not mentioned by name, starting with our wonderful minister who inspires us and entertains us, but also who ministers to us. Stephen, you are amazing, and we are so grateful to have you. To our wonderful music director, Anna, who gave us such joy last Saturday, and who many people have said, not UUs per se, but folks who were here, how much the music that you and Karen provided for us. To the caring and kitchen committees who arrange such a gracious buffet, and all the people who contributed to that. I saw it from afar. I didn't get a chance to participate in real time, but I had a care package, and that meant so much. And to all of you who have reached out and expressed your feelings about Julian and experiences at the service, and those of you who, looking at your watches, have felt that enough had been said, though not through your contribution. I hope you will share privately to me what thoughts you had. Thank you. And I'm amazed that I'm lighting this candle and sitting down and not using my weeping rag that I brought.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, y'all. It's Labor Day, right? So I thought it would be appropriate to light a candle of joy for our fantastic staff here at UUCC, small but mighty, will do everything with a willing heart and love. And we're so fortunate to have them. We're going to have some new folks coming on board soon. You'll be hearing about that later at some point. And I'm sure they will be as great as the current staff. In addition to that, I would like to thank every single volunteer here at UUCC, and there are many. There are many, many volunteers in every area of this organization that make it run, because like I said, our staff is small. We have a wonderful minister, but without all our volunteers, we'd have to shut the doors. So if you've ever wondered, should I volunteer? The answer is yes, you should volunteer. You will get more than you give. Thank you.
The last candle we light is always for those that we are holding silent, the joys and concerns. I invite you to a few deep breaths of silence to remember all that's been shared. As you prepare for our offering this morning, reminder that we do have a Share the Plate recipient for this month. That is the Harriet Hancock Center for LGBTQ justice in this community that does so much, and we are so happy to partner with them in this good work. I believe we will have someone next week from the center that will share about the good work and update us on some of the newest things that are happening. Invite our ushers to come and receive our offering.
Our offertory selection today is We Shall Not Be Moved, which has been used in many ways over many years. With origins as an African-American spiritual, it also was an important song in labor rights and union organizing movements and in the civil rights movement. And it can be sung with many different words. I'll invite you, as Kevin and I are playing this song during the offertory, to please join in singing.
Receive these gifts this morning, symbol of our commitment to our good work. I wonder if we could add a verse to that next time we do it. This is where I sit every Sunday. We shall not be moved. Right? This is my chair. We sit here. Why are you sitting there? I'm kidding. No assigned seating here at the UUCC, at least not officially assigned seating. I will say, when I attend a service and I'm not leading the service, I really don't know where to sit. And I don't think sitting up here would work, so I can relate. Well, we wish you a happy Labor Day weekend. As someone said, these are the folks that didn't have any plans. So I don't know if that applies to every Sunday. Makes me rethink, every Sundays you didn't have plans, so here you are. And those who are visiting, we're so glad that you chose, even in the midst of what you were experiencing, to come and be a part of the service here. This is, oddly enough, a day off from work to commemorate work, which is often a somewhat complicated history around what labor looks like in this country. It wasn't in the beginning, because we were a country of farmers and skilled workers and blacksmiths and silversmiths and cobblers and carpenters, and so much of that work was done hands-on. And of course, we have so many issues around labor and what labor looked like. Somewhere in the midst of that, the crisis that I would describe a crisis of conscience with slavery in the U.S. But even after the Civil War and the Industrial Revolution coming about, building factories thanks to the invention of a steam engine, and finding out that we could create these conditions in a factory that could mass produce things, all of a sudden working conditions for adults and children that were at best disrespectful and unethical, and at worst were abusive. Much of the labor force during that time period was immigrant labor who were attempting to connect and build an income and assimilate into the culture and were treated badly. And therefore, organized labor movements began to start in the late 19th century. Many of those immigrants came from socialism or communism in Europe and would often critique the system here, the capitalistic system that said the US and its capitalistic system has created these deplorable working conditions. They weren't always met kindly when those words came out of their mouths. On May 4th, 1886, there was a rally at the Haymarket Square that was an attempt to rally about supporting those in that industry. And several of the workers at that rally were shot by the Chicago police and wounded on a strike day for the McCormick Reaper Works. There was a leader of the labor movement then called August Spies, who was angered by the police's reaction to the McCormick strike, and he had been giving a speech there at that factory, and he had witnessed the police action against those who were striking. And so he made another speech and denounced the incident and created a movement called the Working People to Arms. And that evening there was spread all of the plans of what they were going to do, and at around 8:30 p.m. on May the 4th, there were about 2,000 workers and activists. And the rally began, and all of a sudden a bomb exploded in the crowd. No one knows who exploded the bomb. They never identified the bomb, but as the people began to disperse, they recognized that at least 8 people had been killed during the crisis. From that time period, labor really created a xenophobia, and people were brought in as immigrants and assumed that they were causing ill will in the labor market. Many of them were found guilty, and several of those were hanged because of the crime on that day. There were balanced movements to try to recognize that, and the International Workers' Day was created on May 1st that year, established as a day to recognize the support of these international workers in our industries. But labor movements began to grow and establish around the U.S. and decided they wanted to have a holiday to celebrate workers, to celebrate labor, to celebrate and bring attention to those who needed to be appreciated and needed better working conditions. They wanted to stay away from the May holiday because of all of the controversy there. And I'm no historian on Grover Cleveland at all. Is anyone a historian on Grover Cleveland? I don't know that I've ever met one. But I will point out that it was during the re-election campaign that he decided to make September a holiday for Labor Day. I'm not saying that's the reason he did it. I'm just pointing out from history's perspective that it was in the middle of a re-election that he decided that the first Monday in September would be a national holiday called Labor Day. And I'm so thankful to that holiday and to Grover Cleveland, of whom I'm not a historian, but I'm so thankful because from that day forward, We have treated labor in the U.S. always fairly and ethically, and the holiday has absolutely fixed the problems in our country. So let's give Grover Cleveland a big hand. Obviously, that's not true. Labor is a complicated, nuanced issue that is a place where we can insert our fire for justice. It was early in the evening on April 4th, 1968, that Martin Luther King Jr. stepped out onto the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was shot and killed. And a great figure was lost that day. Why was he in Memphis to begin with? What was he doing in Memphis? A lot of people can tell you that, yes, Memphis is the place where Dr. King was assassinated, but how do we dig deeper and know why he was there? Being in Memphis as a part of the Poor People's Campaign, he was there fighting for better housing, for wages, for workplace safety, and schools for the underprivileged. And on that particular visit to Memphis, he was championing the 1,300 African-American sanitation workers that worked for the city of Memphis that were on strike and supporting them. He was literally there to do the work of justice for this labor movement. He was there to help the garbage men of the culture get equal footing on their job. That Memphis sanitation worker strike of 1968 is really just a small microcosm of a larger struggle that has continued to pervade itself through our culture. Enduring struggle for workers, but also enduring struggles for civil rights and African Americans that they have faced in this country since Reconstruction. If we look back at that day in Memphis, we will recognize that on one side of the issue was Mayor Loeb in Memphis, who had quickly said, if these workers don't go on strike, and as in his words, Memphis is faced with an illegal work stoppage, and if they do not return to work, we will have no choice to employ others to protect the public health. And it's easy to see where the injustice was coming to say that you are replaceable. But Dr. King says, I know somehow that when it's dark enough, you can see the stars. And I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men in some way are in a strange way are responding to this thing that's happening in our world. That's from his speech the day before he died. Just contrast the viewpoints, the hopefulness versus the you are replaceable, the fight for justice versus you are replaceable. You are expendable. You are non-persons to me. Just 3 years before that, Dr. King stood in Montgomery, Alabama, and delivered a speech on the steps of the Alabama State Capitol in Montgomery. And it was the end of a march that started in Selma and ended at the Capitol. And in that speech, he said, let us therefore continue our triumphant march to the realization of the American dream. Let us march on segregated housing until every ghetto or social or economic depression dissolves. Let us march on segregated schools until every vestige of segregated and inferior education becomes a thing of the past. Let us march on poverty until no American parent has to skip a meal so that their children may eat. March on poverty until no starved person walks the streets of our cities and in towns of search of jobs that don't exist. Let's march on poverty until wrinkled stomachs in Mississippi are filled and the idle industries of Appalachia are revitalized and broken lives and sweltering ghettos are mended. If you recognize just on the other side of our barrier there, we have a call to vote. We are working on living up to what has been said, that our votes are our ways of our prayers. As Raphael Warnock so beautifully put at the Democratic National Convention. It is our way of praying, and we say that every Sunday, right? Service is our prayer. And so to support that, but also to quote Dr. King, he says, let us march on ballot boxes until race baiters disappear. March on ballot boxes until the salient misdeeds of bloodthirsty mobs are transformed. March on ballot boxes until we send all of those people in Congress who will not fear to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God, change their minds. Let us march on ballot boxes until everyone has an equal place, and all of the children will be able to walk the earth in decency and honor. I would love to say that the life of Dr. King and the beautiful words calling us to a better way of being in our culture fixed all of the problems in the labor industry in the US, but it's just not true. Labor continues to be a social justice issue for us. But one of the things he did say, he did remind us that the moral arc of the universe is long and it does bend toward justice. So bring ourselves to modern day. We have been through a crisis that has caused another crisis in our culture. We are experiencing what's called the Great Resignation in our culture today, where during COVID-19, lots of jobs were closed, industries were closed, restaurants were closed, and people were furloughed from their work. In studies now looking back on that transformation that happened during COVID, many of the economists and sociologists say that before COVID, there was a fear of the unknown. You would say, yes, I'm not happy in my job. I'm not happy with the work environment. I'm not happy with the pay. I'm not happy with how I'm treated, but what am I gonna do? I have to keep my job. But the existential crisis of COVID has created the Great Resignation, where people realize, I do have options. I don't have to keep my job. I don't have to continue to work in these conditions, and people are choosing to not stay in jobs where they are not treated well. And what that's causing in our culture is companies forced to do what only a few organizations did in the past, which is actually care about your culture and invest energy in creating a work culture that people want to work in, being fair with working conditions, pay, time off, and benefits. Otherwise, the workforce just isn't available. I remember sitting in a restaurant shortly after COVID discussing the Great Resignation with a few people from where my other job, that's what I call my job at the hospital system, my other job, my second job, job 2 from the UUCC. And I remember we were sitting there and it was taking forever to get service. And even though the restaurant owner had said, I'm short-staffed today, and I really apologize, I'm short-staffed on the waiting area, I'm short-staffed in the kitchen, and I'm here today, I've been here for 48 hours straight almost, it seems. And I remember we were sitting there, and at some point, while we're waiting, someone said, I think the Great Resignation is bullshit. I don't think it's real. I was like, what? How can we sit in the middle of the crisis and pretend it's not a crisis? Economists and people who study labor movements in the US are actually excited about this because they are calling it the Great Shift. The Great Resignation is causing the great shift in the workforce. And it's powerful and impact, maybe even more so than an organized strike. So maybe there is something in our capitalistic system that is unjust. Maybe we don't agree with the way things were handled during those early crises, like the Haymaker incident in 1886. But maybe there was some truth to that voice that's saying something in our capitalistic system is unjust and needs to be examined. I do hear the groans of those immigrant workers in Chicago holding that truth up long ago, because maybe they recognize today that the wealth gap between America's richest and poorest families has more than doubled since 1989. The richest 5% of the families had 104 times the wealth as families in the second quintile, one tier above the lowest, in 1989. And today, the top 5% have 248 times as much wealth. Over the past 50 years, the highest 20% of the U.S. households have steadily brought in a larger share of the country's entire income. Some numbers have it as low as 60%, and some have it as high as 70% of the income. Income equality in the U.S. is the highest of all the G7 nations. I don't stand up here on this Labor Day weekend and say that I have the answers to this problem that has been a problem for a long time in our culture. But I do believe in us here and what we stand for. And John Lewis has been quoted as responding to Dr. King's quote about the ark. John Lewis said, yes, the ark, the moral ark of the universe does bend toward justice, but sometimes we have to pull it a little bit. And I do think the Great Resignation is creating havoc in our economic and workforce culture and is forcing a bend and maybe even calling for us to do a little pulling. So as we celebrate Labor Day this weekend, how can we as UUs perpetuate justice in the issues of labor movements and workforce? What do we stand for? And how do we support the bend and the pull of the moral arc toward justice? I will point out that 15 years after the Labor Day holiday was created, the American Federation of Labor's convention declared that the day before would be called Labor Sunday. And the idea was for Americans to spend it reflecting on the labor movement's spiritual and education aspects. It's not really shocking that that didn't stick. Turns out that a lot of Americans were more interested in picnics and drinking beer at those picnics and on Monday and not really focusing on the Labor Sunday, and so it died a quiet death. But you know, we can do both here, and we know we can do both. We can allow ourselves to take this moment prior to the holiday and think about the spiritual and the education and the justice issues around labor, and recognize that we hold the flame of justice and we are looking for the moral arc in the midst of labor in 2024. And maybe, just maybe, we might be able to bend it a little bit.
Please stand to join in our closing song. You don't have any music for this because you don't need it. This is a call and response song from the Justice Choir Songbook, which is a public use songbook from writers all around the country, hoping that people can sing for social justice in groups like this and in marches and in their activist movements. So first let's practice the call and response. Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings.
And then there's a little chorus that goes like this. Let me demonstrate once. Bend the arc, bend the arc. 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 Now we're going to repeat it a bunch so you can fall into the feeling of the rhythm, the singing, and the words will start to change in the call and response. bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings.
Bend the arc, bend the arc. 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 Dignity for every worker.
Dignity for every worker.
Shift the system, come together.
Shift the system, come together.
Dignity for every worker.
Dignity for every worker.
Shift the system, come together.
Shift the system, come together.
Bend the arc, bend the arc. 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 People join us in our call.
People join us in our call.
Economic justice for all.
Economic justice for all.
People join us in our call.
People join us in our call.
Economic justice for all.
Economic justice for all.
Bend the arc, bend the arc. 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 When it's dark, we see the stars.
When it starts, we see the stars.
We don't stop, we pull the arc.
We don't stop, we pull the arc.
When it's dark, we see the stars.
When it's dark, we see the stars.
We don't stop, we pull the arc.
We don't stop, we pull the arc.
Pull the arc, pull the arc. Pull the arc, pull the arc. Pull the arc, pull the arc. Pull the arc, pull the arc.
Remain standing for the closing words. I want to give the greater context of the speech of Dr. King that he gave in 1965, where he quoted, "The moral arc of the universe is long." So the speech takes about 45 minutes, so if you remain standing. Like that's where you just start clapping, and then I will share his closing words briefly. He says, "I know you're asking today, how long will it take?" So say that, how long will it take? How long will it take? And he says, "How long will justice be crucified and truth bear it?" Say, how long will it take? How long will it take? And he says, "I come to you to say this afternoon, no matter how difficult the moment, how frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth, crushed to the earth, will rise again. How long? Not long, because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long, because you will reap what you sow. How long? Not long, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice."
Please join in singing our congregational benediction. May the blessings of truth be upon us. May the power of love direct us. And may the peace of wisdom and unity sustain us.
as always, want to say a special thank you to our music that brings so much meaning to our service. So thank you, Anna and Kevin, for that today. To our guests, I'm so glad that you're here. Even if you're just visiting as you're in town, we're so glad you decided to spend this day with us and hope that you give us a chance to get to know you. If you're visiting for the first time here, the second time, the third time, fourth time, 100th time, and still consider yourself a guest, we pray that you will give us a chance to get to know you as you get to know us as well. Thank you all for being here today.